You haven't worn it. You know what I'm talking about.
It is the first time.
Yeah, especially to a council meeting.
Yeah,
I was gonna take a picture earlier.
please don't.
I outdressed you today.
Well,
He's got the
He does-
handkerchief,
does
though. I
have
don't
the
even
coat.
have the handkerchief.
hey, you know,
I cheated, no.
this is how I was dressed earlier when I went out, and I said, I got home, like, do I really want to actually go and change and put on a shirt? Like, my wife said, you're wearing a jacket, aren't you? I'm like, yeah, I'm wearing a sport coat.
What's going on here?
I'm ready for the warm days, so I'm sporting a short sleeve shirt. I said, I'm wearing my short
Live,
sleeve
but
white
yeah,
shirt
nice.
today.
Summertime.
Summertime, gonna be what, 60 something tomorrow?
It's supposed to be like
70
68 on Thursday,
yes, yeah,
Saturday.
Thursday, you can almost hit
Yeah.
70.
Here we go. Okay. All right, we're
When you're
good.
ready.
We're good. Ready when you are.
Ready? Council, ready? Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Committee of the Whole meeting of the Village of Walton Hills of Tuesday, March 15th, 2022 at 7:02 p.m. Roll call?
Councilman Nielsen?
Here.
Councilwoman Brenner Miller? Here. Councilwoman Allen? Here. Councilman Spitznagel?
Here.
Councilman Whedon?
Present.
All of council present, along with our fiscal officer, Angela Reve, and our law solicitor, John Montello. Okay, item 3, any comments related to the agenda items? And we'll give our residents that are live streaming, also to the residents, welcome. that
I got
might be
nobody
watching
on
live
yet.
stream. Nobody on yet?
Nope, no, we
Okay.
got 3. Quick jump.
Give them it's always a couple minutes behind the live stream, so. Do you have a comment related to the agenda item, Mr. Harkine? Come on up.
Denny Harkeye, Hickory Drive. There's, regarding ordinance number 2022-2, I have a comment on that. At the present time, some of the wording is as follows, and I did send everyone an email, perhaps you've seen a copy of it already. But the paragraph number 13 at the present time reads, no person shall give, loan, or distribute keys to bathrooms, shed, or other locked village-owned property at Thomas G. Young Park to any organization or person permitted to use the park. Access shall be provided only by village officials. And I wrote, and you all saw a copy of this if you looked at your email, I respectfully suggest that paragraph be changed to read as follows. No person shall give, loan, or distribute keys to the bathrooms, sheds, I put that in there because there's more than one shed on the property, or other locked village-owned property at the Thomas G. Young Park to any organization or person permitted to use the park, unless specifically authorized and documented by village officials. Access to bathrooms, sheds, or other locked properties shall be permitted only to village officials or to those individuals approved by village officials. And I'm suggesting that you change the paragraph that reads the way it does now to read that way. And one of the reasons that I'm suggesting that is that if, for example, I don't have a key to that shed, that means that every time I go down there, I have to call the police and say, hey, could you open up the shed? And I don't think they want to be bothered with such things. So I'm respectfully making a suggestion that the village authorize and approve certain individuals to have access to certain keys for certain situations. And I know from talking to Councilman Nielsen, and I think everybody else knows this too, I'm not the only one that has a key to that shed. The people that do the baseball batting cages and the pitching machines also have one, and they might like to not have to bother the police just to get access to their pitching machines whenever they go down there. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just for everybody's clarification, Denny, I did receive it. I have a copy of it. didn't get a chance to make anybody a copy because I received it at 6:28 and I was doing it. So everybody probably didn't get a chance to look at it because it came at 6:28 and we just, so just didn't want anybody to think that we've had it, haven't had a chance to look. Personal, we just changed quite a few of the locks throughout the village on some of our buildings, some of our facilities. In that right, after talking to the chief and me being safety director, you're better off having the tighter language and having control of the keys. We changed those locks because of some breaches of security. And like you said, you got to come up and get the key. We actually had a resident who does a program for us who was very upset because now they have to go to the window and get that key. Okay? But it wasn't about them, it wasn't about anybody, it was just keeping our facilities safe and the people in those buildings and facilities safe. It was actually a direction from the chief and talking to me, and it was a decision we follow. And so that's the only thing. It's better if we, let's say the situation of the park. If our police want to go up in the morning and open that up, they can do that. Okay? It just gives us that ability to control it. Stan, do you have anything to say to that? When it relates to security and us controlling the keys and limiting access to people?
It just makes it a lot easier for us, who has the key. So this way, if they come to the station, we give them the key. Same thing up at TG Young Park. Officer will usually open up the park between 5:30, 6 o'clock when the days are, nice. And then the afternoon shift between 7:30, 8 o'clock, we'll lock it up. So this way, everybody doesn't have access to the keys for security. Like you said, we did change the locks here at City Hall and the police department. So I'm for it. It just makes things a lot better, more secured.
Right, and it's just, that's all I really got to say on it. Council, we can talk about the legislation and go from there. Any other comments related to any other agenda items? Any comments?
Nothing on the live stream.
We'll give them a couple minutes or a minute or so. Yes. Come on up, Mr. Harkai.
I want to be clear to understand what the plan is. I understand locking the gate in the evening so there's no access to the certain areas of the park. I get that. If the chief or an officer goes up to the park and unlocks first of all, we have never left the gate locked during the summertime. In the summertime, the gate that gives access to that area where the batting cages and the racetrack are, that has never been locked. It's locked now because nobody's using it that I know of, and the only people that would want to go in there are either myself, for one reason or another, just to check things out, or somebody from the baseball program to go in there and check things out. But otherwise, during the summertime, the gate to the fence is always unlocked. It doesn't have to be attended to by anybody. And otherwise, during the wintertime, we keep it locked at all times. Right now, it's locked at the present time, because we don't need people going down there just for no reason, like riding bicycles and stuff like that. Anyway, if the chief or an officer or somebody authorized by the village goes down there to unlock the shed in the morning, that would mean that whatever's in that shed could be exposed to vandalism or theft or whatever. Whenever we go down there, we unlock it and use the blowers that are in there that we use to clean off the track. We get our extension cords out for power to power our chargers. We keep chairs in there sometimes, lawn chairs and stuff like that. And whenever we go there, we take those things out, and then when we leave at the end of the day, we put them all away and lock it up for safety and security. So if it was left unlocked all day long, That would leave the batting equipment, the pitching machines, the balls, and whatever else is in that shed open to theft or vandalism. And I really don't think that's a good idea. Perhaps there's a way we can work this out so that it works well for everybody. We do our best to keep the area safe, to keep the area secure, to protect the assets that are not only ours or the villages, and the assets that belong to the baseball people. So that's what I would ask you to consider. And I would ask you to give me permission to have a key. Certainly, I would be a person of integrity who would take good care of everything and be sure that things went the way they should down there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments? Okay, any comments from
No.
our live stream? Give it a minute. See what happens. Okay. Item 4, legislation. Resolution 2022-6, that's the tracks construction tulip lane water line replacement. We've talked about this in more than 2 or 3 meetings. Tracks construction was the low bid. We accepted that bid. We just have it on now to pass it for legislation. We talked about it, went over it. I read the recommendation letters into record from our engineer, along with our street commissioner. So that's all. And does anybody have any question on the legislation? Looking forward to getting that project done and moving forward with that. They've had a lot of breaks over there. Any questions from residents relating to the Tulip Lane? Oh, yeah, you can do that. Yeah, go ahead. Okay. If not, we'll move on. Anything from, I don't see nothing there. We can always come back to it, too. Okay, item B, ordinance 2022-1. That's the police body worn cameras. I got Stan Jaworski here, our chief of police, to talk about that. We applied for a grant, and we did receive it, a little less than what we were hoping for. So there's some adjustments to the legislation on that. Angela's making a new copy with the numbers in it. And I'm going to have Stan talk about it a little bit. Stan, you can go ahead.
Last week I received from Department of Justice an email pretty much going over everything that we wanted. So they kind of adjusted that. They said, hey, we have to order 6 body cameras, the rack server, the transfer station, the Wi-Fi for downloading of the cars, the evidence library, and the software redactive hardware. The price, the grant is still the same, $30,340. So then Sergeant Gervasi went back to Motorola, WatchGuard, and he says we have to make some adjustments. So yesterday we received the total price, which would be $45,198.80. So it's like $30 less than I had previously said, it was going to be.
Right.
So.
I know everybody was okay with moving forward with it. There was some questions to do with the cameras are the same. It's just the programming.
The program's different, and actually, the 6 cameras we're getting on the grant, they're all updated, new technology and that, where the 9 cameras we have now are the older version, because we've had them since 1819.
I think one of the questions was the definition, the high definition versus, the quality of the cameras, our old cameras compared to the new ones, since we're still going to use some of the older ones.
The technology with the newer cameras, from what Mike had said, that they are better quality, where The old cameras, we did not have the program, so when we pull into the lower lot, it automatically downloads into our
Thank you.
system. Those 6 cameras will automatically do that. So for right now, we'll have the old system for the 9 cameras that we presently have, and then the 6 new cameras we're getting on a grant. So this way, we'll have a total of 15 cameras, so we'll be in good shape.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, go ahead, Brian.
The 9 cameras that you're going to be using along with the 6 new cameras, they can't, the old cameras, other than the Wi-Fi, when you pull in and they automatically upload, will they go to the same server?
No,
Or do
no.
they stay on a
They'll
separate-
stay on the old system that we presently have down there now, and
Do you
then,
have enough space, hard drive space left on that present system
Once-
to run those cameras?
right, once we get the new system, the 6 cameras, we'll be using that majority of the time. At times, we have 3 to 4 officers on a shift, so the new cameras, we'll issue those out to the officers, and then there might be times, we might have to use the old ones, but we can use those for other things too, so it'll be put to good use.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Jennifer.
Chief, so we're going to keep our old cameras. We're now getting new cameras, and it's costing us $30 less.
Yes. Did you explain the other piece that came off? There was a Wi-Fi
Right.
piece
Yeah, the Wi-Fi.
that didn't pertain to us
Right,
in the
so-
original quote.
I remember that.
So when
So
that
the-
came
right.
off, it brought us down to about 39,000 and change, and then adding the 6 cameras, because the grant really was meant to purchase
Right.
cameras.
The grant was
Um,
actually meant for the
yeah.
cameras. Originally, we thought we would get all the computer stuff, the downloading, the redaction program, but when they sent it to me last week, they says you have to get the 6 cameras. So then we had to redo everything, so we're in pretty
Mr.
good shape now.
Mr. Mayor, the only
Yeah,
other
you
thing
are.
I have to say is thank you, and
Thank
thank you very
you.
much to Sergeant Gervaisi.
Thank you for
Yeah.
approving it.
Mayor Colgraf?
Yes.
Yeah, I do have one question for Chief,
Yeah,
and
go ahead.
that's regarding the whole Wi-Fi piece. And I think I understand the 6 new cameras will be automatically downloadable through Wi-Fi. But knowing sometimes here at Village Hall and in the area, Wi-Fi is kind of a subject.
Okay.
Can you talk about the assurance that the Wi-Fi, what it gives us is insurance that that Wi-Fi piece will actually work?
When the officers pull down into the lower lot, we're going to have 2 antennas down there. As soon as the officers pull down, it'll automatically download to our server.
So is that something that's been tested already with in our location, or is that something we'll get?
Right, they said with the 2 antennas, when they came out, they said it should, if, they'll both hit, and it'll automatically download the body cameras and the car cameras at the same time.
Okay, for the new?
For the new ones, right, for the new ones.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council? We talked about this quite a bit.
All right.
Had a presentation at our COW meeting from the chief and Sergeant Mike Gervaisi. So we'll have it for suspension in our council meeting. Any questions from
No.
any
I'm
residents?
almost
Have any
worried.
questions related to the body cameras?
I'm starting to worry there's an issue with the live chat.
We'll give it any questions from our live streamers,
Nothing on the live stream.
our residents who are watching it live.
Nothing on the live stream.
Okay. Item C, ordinance 2022, TG Young Park. Thanks, Stan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
It's up to you if you want to stay or go or whatever. You're more than welcome.
Go home.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for the cameras. Good night.
We'll see you tomorrow morning, Stan.
He's here at what, like 5 a.m.? It's ridiculous.
Ordinance 2022, TG Young Park, Chapter 1068. That's relating to Chapter 1068. We just put that on there. We can have some discussion. I don't know if everybody's ready to pass it, or you want to put it on for first reading. It's up
Mr.
to you.
Mayor,
We can talk about it now, too.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
this morning I emailed everybody, I had some very minor recommendations for changes, wording changes. I believe Mr. Montello did those tentatively. Obviously, they have to be approved by everybody. Did you get 1062 and 1068?
Yes, sir.
I saw the 1062. The changes that I had written, just for everybody's knowledge here, in 1068, in the appendix, there's a reference referring to the return of the deposit in the first paragraph, and 1068 deals with the rental of T.G. Young Park. The rec department, Natalie, wanted that wording of the deposit will be returned in 14 days.
Correct.
Taken out, and that was taken out of 1062. It was not taken out of 1068. So I put that in there to take that wording out. And then again, in 1062, Appendix A2 and Appendix B2, it has in there the parties must pay in full 30 days prior to the event. That wording was not included in 1068, and that would be in item number 1068 would be the, I guess you could call it the second paragraph where it starts at the fee, security deposit in this form, signed and completed in its entirety must be sent to the village clerk, and then something, parties must pay in full. Is that how you worded it?
I can print the amended ones
Mr.
for you guys in
Montello worded
between.
it all, last sentence, all fees and the security deposit shall be paid in full 30 days prior to the function. Thank you. And then the last thing I had was, it was just a typo in 1062. E is an echo, item 4. The mayor may suspend for good cause a permit of any organization, et cetera. The for good, or may suspend was inadvertently not included, and Mr. Montello put that in there. So those were all the changes that I made.
Does council want to amend that and then pass it for suspension in the council meeting? Or do you want to put it on for first reading?
Mayor Colgraf?
Yes.
If I may, I would like for us to put it on for first reading, so we have time to digest and also give our residents opportunity to participate if they may be.
Right.
Of course, we know once we put it up for suspension, we lose that opportunity. So I would suggest first read.
It's up to council. That's nothing wrong with that.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Jen.
Are we talking about specifically 2022-2 or 2022-3 or both? Because we've been discussing 2022-3
Right.
with the rec meetings and such too.
There's separate ordinances, yeah, that's up to you.
Separate ordinance.
I mean, all of them. We put them all. I mean, we've talked. We've had several discussions, over the course of discussion about first read and following that protocol. And I mean, unless it's unless it's explicitly urgent that either one of these are passed, under emergency, let's put it on for first read.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Jennifer.
I was just asking because for the community room, multipurpose room, and banquet hall, we were wanting to get that done so the new fees could be
Exactly.
implemented as of April 1st.
Right.
And Natalie, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
Natalie requested that it be done because she's booking the rooms.
Yeah, we're getting lots of calls.
Let me just throw something out. There's a good chance we'll have a special council meeting at our first COW meeting. We'd like to,
Next month?
yes, like to have the appointment for the zoning board. So I'm just saying there's that gives us a chance, if you did go first reading, we could pass that on the second reading in the first week in April.
That's fine.
You know, I mean.
Well,
it's up to
Mr.
you.
Mayor,
I'm just saying that, just so you know, there's a good chance we'll, and if we want to, then we will have a special council meeting for that legislation.
Mr.
Go ahead,
Mayor,
Mary.
if everyone wants to do first reading, I'll go along with it, but I think we've hashed this out quite a bit. There's been a lot of discussion. Natalie wants some things changed. I don't see why we just don't pass it today, but that's just my opinion. If everyone else wants to do the first reading, that's fine.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, go ahead, Jennifer.
we were talking about the fees for the community room, multipurpose room, and the banquet hall. We
Right.
started those discussions in January. So if you want to put it on first reading today, I would be fine with that, but next week I would really like to get it passed prior to, so we've got that hard start date on
Exactly.
those fees for the first. TG Young Park, I have no issue with going on 3 readings for. You know, that's a fairly newer piece to me and stuff, but I would appreciate if we could pass the community room tonight. Not even tonight, if we put it on first reading tonight, that's fine, you know, but if, it would be considered passing it next week.
2 weeks.
Yeah, we've got two,
It'd be 2
The
weeks.
next- the next
It would
meeting's
be-
in
It would
3.
be after April 1st unless you had
It's
another
April
special,
5th.
unless you had an
Yeah, it's
extra,
April 5th.
another meeting.
Yeah, that would be April 5th. Would be our first COW meeting.
Yeah, so that's when, unless you had a special meeting between now and that.
Oh, that's right, because this is the 3rd week.
so were
Yeah.
you thinking you were gonna maybe have a special meeting during that COW? Like,
Yes,
that
the
seemed
first
right to me.
COW meeting, I would have a
Right.
special meeting,
Mhm.
special council meeting, then you could pass that, pass the zoning board appointment. Unless you want to, I mean, I agree, we have talked about that one, you know, you can, there's separate ordinances, so you could do D, pass D, and put C on first reading, I mean, there's, or you can
Well,
wait,
Mr. Mayor,
that's up to you.
Mr. Mayor, C and D are basically the same.
Right.
The
Just-
verbiage is the same, so
It's-
there's no reason to hold off on, they're the same verbiage.
Right, you're keeping all our
If we're
rentals
gonna
consistent.
change- If we're going to change the verbiage in C, we would have to change the verbiage in D
Correct.
to make it the same. And I've made I'll make my statement known. I've made my changes. And those are the changes that I'm going to vote on. And we've had 4 meetings on this already. So I don't see where anything's going to change. We have a recommendation from the chief of police.
Well, we also had the recommendations from Natalie.
We have recommendations from Natalie. We have recommendations from Mary, who's acting as Natalie's assistant. And Natalie wants to move on this stuff, so I don't mind waiting for one more meeting. I don't know that anything's going to change. I don't think it's going to, but one more meeting is all I would prefer, and get it done and over with so Natalie can move forward. We've got a rec department that's the Parker stuff isn't involved in this, but, the rec department is waiting on this, so.
What's council's pleasure?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'm ready to vote and pass it today. That's my opinion. I mean,
Be nice to get everybody's vote. How do you feel, Ray?
Well, again,
I'd like to,
you know,
because I think you agree with, pretty much with the legislation. I mean,
yeah, I do
it's a
agree.
benefit to the residents. We're
Yes.
going to be renting only to residents.
Mhm.
So the residents are the ones that are, it's a good piece of legislation for the residents. There's just a slight increase in fee to the residents, but I don't think that's up for discussion, is it? You hashed that out
No.
quite a bit. And it's just a very slight fee just to keep up with the cost of cleaning and everything else that goes with inflation, you know.
So Mayor Colgraf, I guess my concern is very simply that not so much the fees and things like that. It's one thing to have discussion in a committee meeting and have it in the COW, and it's another thing to actually finally reduce it to legislation and put it in front of council to be considered. And that's where the 3 reading process is involved. So no matter how many discussions you had before, it's at some point in time, the legislation have to be reduced to writing, and it's just proper that we not necessarily pass everything under suspension. That's where my concern is tonight. And if we have a little time to not necessarily have to do something under suspension, but follow the standard protocol, at least having a first reading, I still stand by that sentiment.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
I agree with Mr. Whedon that not everything needs to be passed under suspension. I've been saying that for a long time, not everything does. If we held this legislation for 3 full readings, March, April, May, that would be the end of May already. And we would lose all that time and
Money.
booking rooms and everything else that's in this legislation. So I don't mind passing this under suspension. I agree that a lot of things don't have to be passed under suspension, but there's a time for this. And the feedback I've gotten from the residents is they're okay with it. They're okay with the fees, they're okay with it, everything we talked about. I could pass it tonight, I came here to pass it tonight, but if everybody, if other people want to wait for the week and see if there's any new information, I don't want to rehash old information that I've already made my decision on.
Well,
I don't see any new information arising.
for
That
three,
could
for
change
3
the
full
show.
readings, it puts it to May 17th.
Right.
So, I mean, are we gonna wait until June then to implement the fees?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. People are booking now, and we can't raise those. We can't implement those fees until this legislation.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mr.
You know,
Nelson.
we've discussed this, I feel, very thoroughly. Ray, I know you don't want to pass it this way, but everything that we've gone over, I mean, I'll agree with Brian, there's nothing here that's going to change. I just don't see, I think we should carry it on because she's trying to move that Parker program forward and she's trying to, take care of things there at the rec hall. So it's, she has her hands full right now, and I think this would just help her. I think this would just move things along and make things run a little smoother.
I'm pretty much done with the discussion. Only, Parker is
Right,
pretty
you
much
can
taken care of. The only thing, what this does, is this still allows our residents to have opportunity to weigh in. Now that it's actually legislation, again, we have to separate our tent time and the discussions that we have before it gets to legislation from when it gets to legislation. Now, the community actually have their opportunity to actually see it, read it, and then potentially weigh in. That's what I'm talking about tonight.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
I always thought, Raymond, that our COWs was the opportunity for the residents to come and talk to us and speak their mind, not when it reaches the point where we vote. We've gone through this since January. They are listening. They know what's going on, or they should. And this is the time, we've come to the time where you vote. It's not when it's presented to you to vote that they should come up and start. I mean, they can, but, we've done this for months. I mean, that's why I don't understand that. I always thought when we've had numerous COW meetings, we have the chief come and discuss with us, we have other people from the different departments come and tell us what's going on. This is the opportunity for the residents to come and speak up, and then we bring it to us, and then once we've hashed it all out, which I believe we have, we vote. That's why just presenting it now, after we've done this, all regurgitated it for so long, if no one's asking a question now, I don't see how they're going to ask it in 3 months. So that's just my opinion. That's how I always looked at it, was the COW was the vetting point for everyone, was to come in and become involved or listen and watch and have their time.
Yeah, I agree with you, Councilwoman Brenner Miller, but we have not, this piece of legislation as a piece of legislation has not been discussed in the COW as a piece of legislation. It has been discussed from a rec committee, and it has been discussed openly, but not as a piece of legislation. And that's where I'm saying there's a difference. When the legislation is finally written and put in front of council, there still should be opportunity for it to be vetted by our residents and have that opportunity. We vote by suspension, it's gone. They lose an emergency and suspension, that opportunity is not there. I'm not saying anything will change. It may not, but at least there was that opportunity for our residents. Now that it is a piece of legislation in front of council, now they still have that opportunity to weigh in.
I guess we have a difference of opinion, that's all.
And that's a good thing.
that's why we're here.
That's a good thing. Well, let's,
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
yeah, go ahead. You go in
The
and
first
I'll-
committee meeting that we had in regards to this was on November 16th at 5:30, prior to the COW meeting. We then had one on January 25th at 7 p.m. specific to this information. We had it again on February 1st at 5:30 prior to the COW meeting. And then we discussed it again on 2/8 at 5:30. And then we had finance. So I lost count. I don't know how many times. But we've been discussing it the entire time. I mean,
Right.
Mr.
And
Mayor.
Councilwoman
For
Allen,
these-
I just want to say, you're absolutely right. We have been discussing it, but it was now finally put in the form of legislation, which starts a new clock.
I guess, yeah, I'm sorry. I guess I'm like Councilwoman
Let-
Miller.
Let's do this.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead, Brian.
I understand where Councilman Whedon's coming from. And if this didn't have a time thing on it,
Has a time-
as far as us renting the facilities and the fees that we're charging, I wouldn't have any issue with that. And I fully understand where Councilman Whedon is coming from with that. This has a time, I don't want to say critical, because it's not critical, but the sooner we get it done, the better for the rec department. So I understand where Councilman Whedon is coming from, but I'm going to respectfully disagree in this instance. I don't mind introducing this for suspension, let the votes fall where they may.
Well, as mayor, I think it's important that it passes. So if we feel, and I can't ask for the votes until we vote, but if the majority of council wants to vote on it, then we can vote on it. That's up to you. You put it out there however you want to do it. I will say this. I understand where everybody's at. I will say this. It's not a piece of legislation that was totally rewritten. There are all pieces of legislation that items were amended and changed. It'd be different if it was totally new pieces of legislation, because there's a lot there, but there's just parts that were changed, that were highlighted, and it's really more related to an update or whatever. So as mayor, I'm comfortable if it passes tonight. I think you talked about it quite a bit, and I haven't received any calls or anything relating to it. I feel it's an excellent piece of legislation for the residents. I think the residents benefit from it. And that's who we represent, specifically to our residents. So I'm good either way. What's council's pleasure? We'll have it on, it's on there for the council meeting. So however you vote, you vote.
Mr. Mayor, I will introduce item C, ordinance 2022-2 for suspension. We'll see where it falls.
Okay. Any more questions from council? Okay. Residents?
Can I hear the point of clarity?
You can come up to the mic. Yes, Lee, come on up to the mic.
Thank you. A couple of, Lee Nielsen, Tulip Lane. A couple of things actually in terms of clarity. So on the ordinance around, the ordinance D, for example, we use the language community room, multipurpose room, and banquet hall, and I never quite know which is which. Because we have a community room,
It's right here.
right?
Yes.
And then these other two rooms are a part of what we have been calling the event center. Okay, I just want to get clarity on that. And the other thing I want to get clarity on is whether you're voting on C and D together or you're voting on D, because I too have been listening to the various conversations for several months about the event center, and as you know, I've spoken about the event center and have some concern about it becoming a cost-neutral environment. So I've listened to that, and I know that you've had conversation about that, but I have not heard the conversation about T.G. Young Park. And so I'm a little concerned if you go ahead and vote on both of them. I'm more concerned about that than I am just going ahead with D, because I have heard a lot of conversation about that. But frankly, I haven't on T.G. Young Park. So I need some clarity. Where are we, guys?
Madam Mayor.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Apologize. Mrs. Nielsen, the clarity on item C would be there's nothing in item C that is not in item D. And they matched before this. For example, if you take a look at the old legislation, they matched. So we're only matching the legislation.
There is a change in C, because I looked at it before I came tonight. I don't have it, usually you have it here, but I don't have it. There is a change in C, and the change that I saw was around the keys. And so I think that that deserves some conversation.
In my opinion, it doesn't.
Well, you and I disagree.
Okay, that's fine. We disagree.
So my point is, you have had lots of conversation about D, the prices for the banquet hall, et cetera. The one thing I was a little bit interested in was that you said we were renting only to residents. Okay? But I recommend that there's more conversation about C. So that's my point of clarity, and I wanted to have more understanding around what you were doing tonight. Okay, any questions of me?
No?
No?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I do Karen Reynolds before I forget?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sorry, we had one.
Question from earlier, so let's.
Right, resident
Sorry
Karen.
about that, Ms. Remy.
Resident Karen Remming had just also stated she watched weekly, and this has been discussed each meeting. So we should not lose our income, and we should move forward with it.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to know what our law director has to say about, we heard from our police chief. We heard about the other legislation. I'd like to know directly from our law solicitor what he thinks about the key. And then I'm ready to vote. I don't need to speak about the key anymore.
Yeah, go ahead. Go
It should be
ahead.
the policy of the village, not to lend keys to anyone. So, I mean, we should be consistent, so you can have there's liability issues about letting somebody have a key, or even if they store their personal belongings there. There's insurance issues that arise. And I think, that's my comment.
Mr. Council and residents, as far as, to me, the keys are a small issue. We've already asked, I've already changed, the chief came to me and said, we have a security breach, we need to change some locks in the village. Okay? As the safety director and the mayor, I follow my department head's leads. As the police chief, we had discussion. I said, that's very important. Security is important. So we followed his lead. I got calls, as I said to you, from other residents in the same position as a resident that talked tonight, upset because they have to come here and get the key. Okay? Doesn't mean they can't use the facility. We're just asking them to follow a different protocol. Okay? So if you're going to hold up that legislation because of that, my opinion's not going to change. I'm sure the police chief isn't going to change. And I hope we follow the expert in that department, which is our police chief. Okay? That's where I'm at as the mayor. I got good quality people under me, and I'll follow their recommendations. So that's up to you, however you decide you want to vote on that. I think it's important. I think, Ms. Nielsen, what Mr. Spitzner was trying to say, these are all rental facilities, and we're trying to keep them very consistent. You know, the event center was one of the places that we did change the keys. We changed the protocol that they have to come up here and get the key to use that. And when we had that meeting and that surfaced, and we're doing this legislation, it just made sense to keep that other facility consistent with the other 3 facilities. I really can't explain it any other way. We keep it different, then we have the same thing saying, well, if you can do it that way, why can't do it? And at this time, because of reasons we had to change the key, I think it's to our advantage to have that control. It's nothing to do with our residents. Anybody else have any comments related to that?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'll just say that when we started discussing with the event center, I was the one that said, I don't think we should be giving keys out to people. You know, essentially it was going to perfect strangers. And so I was one of the first people to bring that up.
And we have had lost keys and had to pay to have the locks redone in the past already, within the past year, prior to us changing them for our own security issues.
I will say also, after last week's meeting, I had several phone calls from residents that were not happy knowing certain individuals had a permanent key to a village facility. And I understand that too. So I can pass both of these legislations because C does basically reflect the same changes that were made in D. The rental prices being taken out of there, that was changed also. And the recommendation from the police chief and stuff about our facilities being secure and under the village security.
Any questions related to that? Yes, Denny. Come on up.
Denny Harkai, Hickory Drive. Okay, I'm all on board with the issue around security and the keys and everything else. Question. When someone wants the key, regardless of who it is, to get into that shed down by the racetrack, can they get the key anytime they want it when they come to the police department? Will the key be available? In other words, let's say some guys want to come down on Tuesday afternoon. Can they come up here and say, hi, here's me, here's my identification, I'd like to get into the shed, I'll bring the key back. Will that be available?
You don't have to be a resident. We can't
So-
give keys to a non-resident.
Okay, all right, so basically then what you're saying is myself or anybody else that's in our group that's a resident could come up here anytime they want and say, here's me, here's my identification, I need the key, and the key would be available for us to get and take and then bring it back when we're done with it. Is that the way that's going to work?
That's how it works currently, Mayor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but for a non-resident, only if we're renting out the facility.
Okay.
We don't give keys to non-residents.
Oh, no, I know
for our
that.
facilities
I know
unless
that,
they're
no.
renting out. You gotta remember, a non-resident that's going down to use our park and it has a key, they should be renting it out. Okay? We're not gonna give a key to a non-resident for any of our facilities. Unless they're renting out thing, and that's changing now anyways.
Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, though, dispatch
Otherwise, they're all going to be
usually has-
residents.
Oh, no, I
coming
know,
for
all
the
right.
keys.
Well, all right, main thing is, so if I want to go down there on Sunday, I can come to the village hall, push the button to talk to a dispatcher,
Yes.
whoever's in there, and say, hi, here's me, I'm Denny Harkai. We're going to go racing today, can I get the key? I won't have to wait for it or anything like that. I won't have to ask the policeman to come up there. We can just get it, and then I'll bring it back at the end of the day, somebody will be there to turn it in. Is that the way it's going to work?
How it's gonna work is they will get you the key as fast as they can. If you come there and our dispatch is on the phone with an emergency, then
I get that.
you said
Yeah.
you don't wanna wait. Well,
Yeah.
we wanna work with
All
everybody,
right,
you know
good.
that.
Okay.
Our departments work with everybody.
Okay.
Our residents are treated pretty good, I think, I would hope, because if they don't, you guys let me know, we talk to them and they make everybody good. You know that.
Okay.
Our police, a lot of times they drive through there, they want to make sure you're safe and who's ever there. It's, yes, we want to accommodate anybody who's using our facilities. No different than when the bathrooms are locked, somebody goes up there and they tell us the bathrooms are locked. They make a call to me or somebody, I get through dispatch, I have them get up there as fast as they can. If the police are on an active situation, and maybe I gotta call one of the gentlemen, the service employees to get up there might be time to wait, but, we'll try to get it to it, especially you go up early or whatever, I don't think I think the key's gonna be the least of anybody's problem.
Of course it is, but I do want to
That's-
understand it and know what the rules are, because
Yeah.
we use it all the time.
Right, that's,
Set schedule might be helpful too, instead of,
no, we don't.
Say
do
that
nothing
again?
like that.
set a schedule instead of time, if you have exact times, let them know, so they'd be available.
So we go down there all the time, so anytime I want to go down there, I can get the key and get in there.
That won't be a problem.
That's how it's been for the event center.
What's that?
That's how it's been for the event
That's how
center.
it is for the
Yeah.
event
If
center.
we're not here, then
They
dispatch.
rent the event center, they come up, they get the key, and then when they're done, they bring the key back.
Okay, here's the
Yeah.
old key. How soon will new keys be available?
I don't know.
All right, here's the old one.
It's,
As long as we can get it whenever we need it, and it protects everybody's property, okay with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
the intent is not to prevent somebody from using anything. The intent is that our facilities are secure and we know where everything's at. That's all.
And from a resident's point of view, go ahead and pass the legislation as quick as you can. Because you're right, you've been talking about it for a long time.
Thank you.
I agree. Do it.
any other questions related to the legislation?
No, did you want to officially go on to the next?
We'll go down to D, we talked about it, but we can go through it. Ordinance 2022-3, Community Room, Multi-Purpose Room, Banquet Hall, Chapter 1062. Any questions there?
No.
Any questions from any residents, non-residents,
Nothing
Any-
on here yet.
residents
We
streaming?
haven't had our
We'll give them a
usual
minute.
person blurb in. We haven't yet. Not yet. We've had them do that on one of our apps though for our band boosters.
Any
Nothing on the live stream.
council good?
Yep.
Move on, okay. So, let's go through this, and I think I remember from our last COW meeting, Mr. Whedon, you'd like to introduce
Bless you.
Resolution 2022-6 for suspension? Wasn't that?
5. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That will be 5 now. Originally, I put 6 on here again. I apologize. When I did the thing, I pulled it. It was originally going to be 6. We thought we needed legislation for
Let
something
me go to
else.
my meeting.
Sorry.
council meeting. I'm looking at the COW, you got 6.
No, you're okay. Is
That's
it right on
fine.
the council?
As long as we get it right
I'm,
when we
says
introduce
I'm
it.
grabbing and copy pasting in the agenda software, so it was originally
Mine
6.
says 5.
And we dropped something else, so this became 5. Yeah.
Right, we
something
did.
else we didn't. So yes, 5 is correct.
Would you like to introduce Resolution 2022-5 for suspension at the time?
That is correct.
Okay. Item B, ordinance 2022-1, the police body worn cameras. And I think Mary Brenner Miller wanted to introduce that for suspension. And then we have ordinance 2022-2, TG Young Park. Who wanted to introduce that?
Brian did.
Brian?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, who's doing item B? Mary?
Mary.
No, I'm doing B, yeah.
Yeah.
Ray, Mary, Brian. Who would like to introduce item D?
I'll take it, Mayor.
Okay, and Jennifer is going to do that. Okay, that's got us ready for the council meeting. Old business here. As you know, we talked about it. We wanted to exercise our second year on our senior lawn care contract. And the bidder, not the bidder, but the person who bid the 2-year contract has an exit clause in there just like we do. And we received a letter from our street commissioner that he opted out of the second year due to gasoline costs and labor costs. So we did rebid it. I did send you the letter from Mr. Kalman, and I'll read it into the record. Just wanted to bring it up. After I recommended exercising our second year option with Sharpscapes for senior lawn care, in my letter dated February 14, 2022, Sharpscapes reached out to me and indicated that due to the rise in fuel costs and inflation, they were not able to perform the lawn care services for 2022 season. It has been advertised, and that the village will be accepting bids for our senior lawn program. The notice will be posted in Neighborhood News as well as in Nordonia News Leader and Twinsburg Bulletin. Bids will be received by March 11th, which was Friday. The sealed bid opening for the senior lawn care cutting program for the 2022-23 season was conducted on Friday, March 11, 2022. We received one bid, and I recommend we award it to that bidder. And it is Sharpscapes Landscaping and Snow Plowing. He has had the contract for the past few years, and his cost for the 2022-23 season is listed below. So this will, I'd like to add this to the, if we have that special council meeting. I'll have it on the COW meeting and that special council meeting. So,
Mr. Mayor?
makes it easy. There's only one option we have. And that's either we accept the bid or we don't have anybody for our senior lawn care cutting. Sad, but that's just where things are at right now.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I know I had some people who may be watching, I don't know if they are or not. Would you be able to read the prices?
Yes.
For them, just so everybody knows, but they've gone up significantly,
Right.
as usual, you know, as everything else is.
And we'll post them, and Lisa, we've been getting calls, and Lisa's been telling them tentatively, this is the contract, because until council passes it, puts it in legislation, accepts it. So up to 1 acre for lawn cutting is $1,095. Up to 1 acre for lawn cutting with leaf pickup is $1,370, $1,370. 1 to 2 acres for lawn cutting is $1,380. 1 to 2 acres for lawn cutting with leaf pickup is $1,715. 2 to 3 acres for lawn cutting is $1,785. 2 to 3 acres for lawn cutting and leaf pickup is $2,175.
You want to read that
Mr.
part?
Mayor?
Feel like they could pay in installments or in full.
Yeah, we can, in the contract, it's payable in 2 payments. The first half will be from April 15th through July 15th. The second half will be July 16th through October 31st.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
Yeah, just,
Mr. Nielsen.
looking at the prices here and just going by what I take care of my own, these prices are, I think, are really in line with the price of fuel, the way it is, and I don't think, since we only had one bid, I mean, looks like we're gonna have to take that, but it's not like he's gouging us, that's for sure. I mean, just looking at these numbers, so I recommend that we go ahead with it.
I just want to make the point, just so, I think it's important with that said. Sharpscape's has had 2-year contracts with us, and we've exercised the second year before. So it isn't like they take it very serious. It's not like, they've had a contract with us before for 2 years, and then they exercise it like just to play a thing. And we all know the reasons are out there. I mean, it's the price of gas and just labor alone. Labor is one of the things he's struggling with, his conversations with Rob. So we'll get that, Mr. Montello will get the legislation written up for that, and then I just wanted to throw that out there.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead, Jennifer.
In wanting to also not, Councilman Whedon, pass everything as an emergency, and seeing as how this contract starts on the 15th of April, our first COW meeting would be the 5th, and then the second one the 12th. The 19th would be our actual council meeting. Could we have 2 special council meetings to read this through and then pass it on the 12th? Would that be okay with Councilman Whedon? So we get it passed before the actual contract start date?
See, well, here, can I just give my opinion? We got one contract, we got one bidder.
Yeah.
There's nothing that's gonna change. I mean,
Yeah.
here's the thing, we did our due diligence, we did it right, we had the legislation, we already passed it to accept their thing, and they have the right to sign it after we pass it, and they denied, they accepted their exit clause. So we did our due diligence, there's not really, what puts it in this situation so close to the cutting is we had to rebid it.
Correct.
And we had to follow the proper time frame for advertising, time for companies to submit a bid, and then time to open it, and that.
Right, which was just this past
Right.
Friday.
Right, if we didn't have to do that, we would have, you know what I mean? So it's up to you. I would think that if we had the special meeting, we talked about in the council meeting, you could pass that under suspension. That would be my recommendation, but it's up to you. It's up
Mr.
to
Mayor.
council.
I think, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just
Go
going to
ahead,
say,
Fred.
we could, our first meeting, our first council, COW meeting, then we can have a special council meeting. We can pass at that first meeting, can we? I mean, I
Yes,
think we have.
yeah,
to
if you
vote.
pass it under suspension.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think this is something that, first cuts will be like April 15th, or,
Yeah,
so.
Mr. Mayor, I think
Yes.
that's what Ms. Allen was getting at. The council meeting falls after the start date of
Right.
the contract. So we would have to pass the contract prior to its start date,
No, the first cutting is,
April
April 15th
15th.
Yeah.
And the council meeting of April.
is April 19th.
no, but we have it in the special council meeting.
Right, the special.
Yeah.
That's what Councilwoman Allen was getting at.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, that's what we,
Special council meeting.
definitely.
Right. Mr. Mayor, I do understand the frustration with everything being passed on an emergency basis. I do find it frustrating. Sometimes it's, well, this is just housekeeping, and this is the way the timeline falls right now and stuff. Or, with the other stuff tonight, I feel we have been working on it for quite a while. So I do understand, and I think we should be more 3 readings instead of having more emergency readings. That's just something we need to keep striving for.
I'm going to make a comment to that. We're one of the few communities that has two COW meetings, which is council of the whole, which is where you talk about it, you discuss it, you get to your council meeting, it's in legislation you pass, you could have it for 3 readings, but very few communities even have 2 COW meetings. And so one thing I'll say, being on council and working with good council people like the body here, is you really dive into all this. So when you get to the council meeting and it's on legislation, my gosh, we've talked about it more than a lot of communities have their COW meeting legislation just like that.
Yeah.
Like that. We're one of the few communities, one of the only communities really in the area that really does what we do, which is a great thing. which is a great thing, because our residents have a good chance, a lot of time for input. So, just wanted to make that point. Plus, we live stream it and people watch it and they can see it too, so it's all a plus. Okay, anybody else have anything for other business?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Brian.
I do. You received 2 emails today concerning the state's capital budget application for a grant. The second email had a revised number on there. This is through Senator Dolan's office. It's actually a statewide grant. I did finish this tentatively, and it's in all your email boxes. I'd like to send this sometime tomorrow afternoon or maybe Thursday morning. The deadline is Friday in the afternoon. Now, although this says 2021 application, I confirmed that it's actually, that's a typo, and also in their advertisement of the grant, it says 2021. The total project cost we're talking about is $55,480. These figures, Rob Kalman was instrumental in doing the research and getting the numbers on paving and things like that. What goes into these numbers, resurfacing the tennis court area, that's 12,800 square feet. That includes 1.5 inch of number 448 type 1 surface course. That's $25,000 to resurface that area. Resurface the current batting location, batting cage location. That's $10,530. Crack seal the western part that needs any crack sealing is $1,200. Stripe a basketball court, $750. Stripe 2 pickleball courts is $1,500 per court. If you want it painted, which I had a conversation with Rob, I see no reason to have it painted, but pro courts paint the inside of the lines different colors, and that's $5,000 per court. And I see no reason to do that unless we had the grant to do that, and I don't even know if I would, being a multi-use area down there, paint that to begin with, because we could also, if we did get the grant, we could use it for the tennis courts and possibly stripe both pickleball and tennis up there also. Also included in that is, now these are just a few of the types of equipment that I found. Don't let the first net system cost of that scare you. Let's see. The second one on the second page, this Net Deluxe on-court, off-court Pickle Net Deluxe. That's $330. It's gotten very good reviews from all over. It's advertised all over. The first one is $1,897. I don't know if we need to spend that much money when something else gets really good reviews as far as an outside. And again, these are movable on wheels, so it can be easily moved out of the way for other uses. Tennis court, on the third page, there's an in-ground combo. We currently have the posts up there that are cemented in-ground. These would go into a hole that's got a plate in it on the following page. It would stand in that hole, and you could take those out That net itself, that's $992 or $993. That net is also adjustable in height for either tennis or pickleball. So you can use it for one or the other. The next page is just the post without the nets. And then the last couple pages are the basketball hoops. The one with the 72-inch backboard, which I believe is a Spalding outdoor, the 72-inch is the pro width of a backboard. That is $1,900. And then the next, that is adjustable in height. The next one is $2,293, $2,300. That is adjustable in height also. That has a 60-inch backboard. But of course, it's made for, both of those are made for, higher use, Those items, striping 2 courts, the 2 pickleball nets, basketball hoop, and the stripe the court, that adds up to $7,950. And in order to get these grants, I've been talking to some people, and just from our experience getting grants, they want us to have some skin in the game instead of just asking for money. So I've included $8,000 off of that, which would come to Village Hall. Of course, this come from Village Hall. Of course, this is up to everybody's, acceptance. And then the balance, $47,480, would come from the state if we were to get this. Now, the thing is, if you look under funding description, I don't know if you, does everybody have this? Did you get, I saw, under the funding description, it has fiscal year, itemized breakout of total project cost over the next 3 capital biennia. And it starts in 2023 to 2024, and then 25 to 26, and 27 to 28. So that indicates to me that this money is not going to be doled out to whoever gets it until the beginning of next year. So what I'm going to ask council, not tonight, but to think about, and I've talked to Angela, and maybe she can come up with some information for us this evening on some funds that we have, but spending the $8,000 to buy the equipment and stripe, so we don't lose an entire year of recreation opportunities for the residents. I think $8,000 is a minor cost to bear. We've been asked, why don't you put it up at the tennis courts? Well, it's going to cost us at least $25,000 to do the tennis courts. So we can't do the tennis courts unless we get this funding, the grant. So maybe I asked Angela to see if we had money from elsewhere, if we could use some of the COVID money.
So, sure, from what I'm looking at, I'm gonna triple check all the final rule stuff. Anything that we're doing that is gonna be a benefit to the residents, a service to the residents, just as a dump truck would be because we're plowing, should probably fall in line with that. And given that we're gonna be getting another tranche of the money this year, and we may be leasing instead of utilizing all of it on dump trucks, I think that it's probably feasible from there. And if for some reason I find something that tells me definitely no on that, I will just look to each budget between rec and maybe what we have with buildings and land to see if we can combine a little from each.
Okay.
So yeah, we should be able to cover 8.
The current budget for this year has us, I don't know how we're doing the first quarter. We haven't discussed that yet. To the good $267,000, a little bit above that. So so I don't know how we're doing in the quarter.
Yeah, we'll get to discussing that,
Yeah.
by
But-
next meeting for sure, if you don't have that information before that. Because
Yeah.
first quarter's always a little hairy because we got a lot of bigger expenses coming up, so,
Yeah.
so I'll get those figures out and let you know.
So my way of thinking and asking for the $8,000, if we can do it, is to not wait
Sure.
another entire year for our residents to have something else to do. In this application here, I did find some information on some pickleball courts that I didn't know of. Let's see. Participation in the sport grew between 19 and 20 by 21.3% to 4.2 million Americans. According to the Sports and Fitness Industry Association's 2022 Top-Line Participation Report, released in February of this year, 2022, pickleball grew in 2021 by 39.3% to 4.8 million players only in the U.S. That's only counting the U.S. So it is a growing sport by bounds, and I know a lot of indoor and outdoor tennis leagues, tennis programs are converting at least a few of their courts to these types of courts. And it allows, reading, Googling it and reading the information on it, it allows all ages to play. So you have, if the Parkers are down there, they'll enjoy playing it. You're not ensconced in such a big area that it's overwhelming. So young to old can play it, and that's why it's expanding so much. So keeping in mind, we want to use that for multi-purpose area. Other people have uses for it also, and we're going to accommodate and, all that. So that's what I have on my agenda.
Any other business? Council have it. Go ahead.
Mayor Colgraf, I did have a question for Councilman Spitznagel regarding this proposal. And I do understand the deadline is this Friday, I think you said Friday the 18th. something like that.
Yeah.
And Mr. Spitznagel, you mentioned fiscal year 2023, 2024
Right.
is when the state's timeline. Do you have a deadline of when the funds have to be expended if we receive them when we would have to use the state funds?
I don't, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go
In
ahead.
answer to your question, I don't know that answer. It didn't say in any of the writing when it has to be expended. However, it does give a 3-year timeline of how much per year you are going to expend of the budget. So that would indicate to me that you're going to spend it in 3 tranches over a 3-year time period. But we wouldn't need that. All we would need is, if we did get the money, we would redo the tennis courts and do some other things with that money that is stated in here. One thing I found interesting, it didn't ask for a complete breakdown of the costs like I just outlined. It just asked for a total project cost. It did ask for a description, which I've included, but it did not ask for, a breakdown of the specific costs.
Different than other grants we've applied for.
Right.
Right, a lot of the grants that the chief applies for, we've got to show we've paid first before we get reimbursed. Same thing with our capital grants.
Yeah. So Mayor Colgraf, as I look at that in this project description and the application from the state's perspective, where it's talking about itemized breakout total project costs of fiscal year 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. That's also said, hey, look, are you guys going to be doing other things that, in those subsequent years perhaps? But I'm more concerned about the 2023, 24, this is the right time to be applying for 2023, 24 grants. I get that. I do have a concern whether or not we are trying to find money in the 2022 budget for a grant that may run to 2023. This sounds to me more like a 2023 budgetary item versus us trying to find if we can find, $8,000 does not sound like a lot of money, but considering, we're still trying to wrap up 2021 in a sense, I just don't understand the feasibility of us trying to squeeze money out of 2022 for 2023, 2024 funded project versus when 2023, when it's time for the 2023 budget, if this money comes in, I'm assuming you're going to have time for this project to take place in 2023, 2024.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. The methodology here is the expensive costs, if we even do get this grant, and, we apply for many grants, we get a small fraction we actually get a small fraction of the grants we even apply for. If we do get this grant, I'll be shocked, because we don't get a lot of grants. The grants that I've submitted, we've got probably 1/10 of the grants that I've submitted. So by asking for just the basic equipment costs and the striping and things like that, just the basic necessities, will give our residents the opportunity to use that this year, as opposed to waiting one more year and finding out we didn't even get this grant, it didn't come through, and we've lost an entire year of giving our residents that opportunity to use the stuff. That's again, if there's, being budget conscious, if there's that money in the budget to ask for it. I believe there is, but, Angela's going to sharpen the pencil and see, especially if we can use that COVID money to do that. That's what my way of thinking is, as opposed to just holding off and saying, well, we'll do it if we get a grant. I think for $8,000 to give residents some more recreational opportunities, it's well worth it. Even if this grant even if I wasn't applying for the grant. So that's where I'm thinking.
Mr. Mayor.
That's where my mind is.
Yes, Mr. Nielsen.
Yeah, Mr. Whedon, over the years, I've watched Mr. Spitznagel for a lot of years go after these grants. There's a lot involved. He really does his homework, and it's been unfortunate that we haven't gotten many of them, but he has received a few, and the money just it's not a large amount. This seems to be a little bit more of a grant, but if you don't go after it now for 23, your chances of getting it are slim. Best thing is to be, and we found this out, is to be first in line.
If I may.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm not objecting to the application. What I'm saying is, like similarly, in a lot of the grant applications that we have here in the village, it's a if-then scenario. If the grant is approved, then the village expends X amount to make sure we do our part. And I'm saying this is no different. If the grant is approved for the fiscal year 2023-24, then the village should be trying to find their portion to accommodate that. It's no different than any other grant application. If the village, if the Cuyahoga County approves of whatever the 1 point for Dunham, then Walton Hills comes up with the 495 for whatever that dollar amount was, the final amount for their portion. That's what I'm saying. It's still a if-then scenario. If the grant is approved, then the village, and for me, that says this is part of the 2023 planning year. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying we shouldn't apply for the grant. But what I am saying is it doesn't appear to me that finding $8,000 in the 2022 budget and you don't know if you're going to get a grant for that's fiscal year 2023, 24, or when it's going to come is really where we should be spending our time and conversation.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead, Brian.
Just to respond to that, most of our budget, or most of our grants that we do apply for, we have to, prior to accepting any grant, have to allocate that money. If we go, Mr. Gelati's told us several times, if we go after a grant and don't accept that grant because we don't want to expend that money for our part of the grant, we would lose our status in obtaining further grants. So we have to be sure we are going to allocate the money that they are requesting when we put in for the grant. The way I'm looking at this is based on the bare bones cost of doing what we would like to do. It's going to, bless you, it's going to cost us $8,000. I'm looking at this is if we get this grant, that's going to be icing on the cake to redo the tennis courts. And we've already told them we would, with this grant, we would expend the $8,000 as part of that overall encompassing thing, which we would. We're not lying about it. We would. It's all included in there. But if we don't get it, then we've expended the $8,000 to give the residents more recreational opportunities for this year. And I'm not counting on this grant to come in at all. If it does, then we can concentrate on redoing the tennis court, because that,
Right.
and the batting cage, and the eastern side of that whole area, that big area. Because right now, we don't have the money to repave that eastern side of that whole area either. The really only good area we have is that western side. You know, the batting cages, if you haven't been in there, but walk around it, it's, you know, I don't know how it is as a surface in that. But that's how I'm looking at this. I'm looking at this as, if this grant didn't even exist, as part of the recreational opportunities for the residents, I'd be asking for the $8,000. And this is just icing on the cake if it comes through. So this is not, in my mind, the 2023 program, the $8,000. The rest of it, the $47,480, is a 2023 project. That's where my...
Yeah, so just for clarity, Mr. Spitznagel,
Yeah.
the 8,000 does what? What does the 8,000, what would that
It buys
be if it was
the-
by itself?
It buys the equipment and the
For
striping.
equipment for,
Basketball court, it buys the basketball court, the pickleball courts, and the striping for those. That's what it buys.
this is for the western area?
Correct.
The eastern area?
Western. The 2 pickleball courts and the basketball court. Basic striping, not painting or anything. Just basic.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
I always enjoy a lively discussion, but we're discussing back and forth on a lot of ifs right now. We don't know if we're getting the grant. We don't know if $8,000 can be used with the money that Angela can find, or if she can even find it. So I would suggest until we have some definitive answers, we move along.
But what's in front of us, though, is we're applying for the grant.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean,
Yes.
that's the whole Right, that's the whole point.
Yes, no, and Mr. Mayor, if I could too, thank you very much to Councilman Spitznagel, because I saw all the paperwork that he was doing with the grant, and I appreciate all the time and effort that you put into it.
I do have resident comments.
I know, I will, I'm gonna get done, just making sure
You're fine.
council's done. I see, anybody, any council have any other comments? Residents, we'll go with the live residents, and then we'll go with the live stream residents.
Denny Harkai, Hickory Drive. This discussion leads to a perfect opportunity for me to read briefly an article that appeared in the Walton Hills Journal in August of 2017. Similar articles were also in the Owl and the Liberty News. And the title of the article is Walton Hills International Raceway. The Walton Hills International Raceway was recently repaved, and the raceway, along with the Village of Walton Hills, would like to thank the patrons and sponsors who supported this project. A big thank you goes to the contractor, Empire Paving. If you need help with a paving project, give John DeCapua of Empire Paving a call at 216-310-4125, extension 28, or you can check out the company's website at www.empirepaving.com. The bid to repave and refurbish the track was $9,250. The job was done at no cost to the village, and all the expenses were absorbed by Empire Paving and the following kind individuals: Denny Harkai, that's me, resident car racer; Bill Mason, Walton Hills Law Solicitor; Brock Milstein, Hard Rock Roxino; Mark Milstein, Adam Building Company; Steve Fescannon, RC Car Racer; John Palumbo, resident and RC Car Racer; John Orland, RC Car Racer; Dave Tammy, RC Car Racer; John Malone, RC Car Racer; Ken Hudak, RC Car Racer; Ken Beam, who's sitting right back there, RC Car Racer; Mike Betty, RC Car Racer; Kevin Cottrell, resident; Kevin Hurst, mayor; Don Colagraph, council president; Denny Linville, council member; Paul Rich, council member; Mary Brenner Miller, council member; Brian Spitznagel, council member; Katie Iconis, fiscal officer and mayor's assistant; Vic Nagalo, tax administrator; Kathy Sorna, Caldwell Banker Hunter Realty; Mark Lyon, general manager of J Honda; Larry Burns, resident; Mike Reed, Walton Hills Auto; Tinker's Creek Tavern; Ed and Frank King from King's Gym; Sandra Orland, who, by the way, is the mother of another racer friend; and Ken Koppel from Koppel Advertising. And then a special thank you also goes to the Walton Hills Service Department for the help they gave us on this project as well. Now, everybody that's here knows that we started off with very humble beginnings. The whole western area was a dilapidated, unused piece of property that was just sitting there with weeds about this high growing out of the cracks and broken up rollerblade material things. And so we started off with humble beginnings. Prior to this, a few years before that we got the thing paved, we came to council. And at that time, Bill Allen was a councilman, and I brought the subject up about we were running our cars up in the parking lot, which could be dangerous to some extent, but we had permission to do it. I came to council and said, would you approve us turning that area that's not being used for anything else into a safe place for us to race our cars? Well, at that time, I forget exactly the year, but Bill Allen was on council, and his words were, I think that's a good idea, let's approve a $5,000 budget. It was immediately approved, and we began with $5,000, and humble beginnings. All we did was have the contractor, which at that time was Cerna, came up there and he took and they filled in those cracks, some of them were this wide with, I don't know the substance they fill in cracks with, but some kind of sand or tar or putty or whatever, but they filled it in and made it smooth. We were out there ourselves with grinding machines. Our racing group rented special grinding machines to level off those cracks that were, at different levels. And then Cerna came in and put the crack filling in and put a seal coating on. The seal coating lasted a couple of years, and they had to reseal coat it again. And then after it failed again, that's when we needed to pave it. My suggestion is, rather than taking the one, by the way, there's no need to have anybody go down there and fill cracks. I was personally down there with other racers who live in the village and friends. We were on our hands and knees, literally on our hands and knees, on our bellies, with our glasses on, filling every minute little crack in that pavement, taking care of the village property, and trying to keep that as nice and as a benefit to everybody that's using it, and to keep it nice and smooth and clean. So whatever budget would be allocated to fill cracks, you can save that money because we took care of that, trust me. My suggestion is this: rather than taking the only area in that park, one of the few areas in that park that's in really nice condition, and trying to turn it into a facility that gets used by everybody for everything, and marking it up with all kinds of markings that don't have anything to do with a racetrack, here's a suggestion. Oh, by the way, you want to talk about having skin in the game? We have some skin in the game, trust me, as far as that goes. Now, I don't know how many people here are willing to say, all right, I'm in for a few bucks toward fixing up the tennis courts up on top. But perhaps someone could contact one of the contractors in this village, have them take a look at those courts that are up there, fill in the bad cracks, seal coat it with something. I'll bet that could be done for a very, very small amount of money. Then take one basketball court can hold 4 pickleball courts. There's 2 basketball courts up there, so there's plenty of rooms to make pickleball courts. Take and mark that area off and get your portable nets that could also be used if they're moved. You could bring those over to the recreation center and set up indoor pickleball courts on that dance floor that's in there, but that's another subject. Anyway, all you got to do is mark that off a little bit and let this pickleball and all these other things, our budgets are limited, we respect that. Start that whole thing off with humble beginnings. I'll bet you that if we put our minds together, and I'm willing to help with this, by the way. I'm pretty good at knowing people and negotiating deals and trying to bring money in. And I would even donate some money myself to help this. I'm not going to make a commitment like I did last time by just saying I'm going to give $1,000. I'm not going to do that. But I would be willing to donate to it. I don't know how many others would be. But in the meantime, if we work together as a team, and by the way, as long as we're all playing a game, let's play a game so that everybody's a winner and nobody's a loser. I don't think anybody disagrees with that concept. The proposal that's being made right now to take and put markings all over the racetrack is going to make the racing people a loser. And I don't want to see that happen. I don't think you guys should allow that to happen. Rather than doing that, let's take those tennis courts up there and start with humble beginnings. I'll bet we can resurface that for a very minimum cost. Then, you want to see how interested people are in pickleball? Well, let's see who's using it. I mean, if there are people standing in line to play, then take these negotiations for, I'm not saying don't apply for grants. I appreciate and respect the effort that goes into getting those things. But in the meantime, let's start off with humble beginnings and move along at a pace that's within our budget and at a pace that we can all live with. Those are my suggestions. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Lee.
I'll be quick.
That's fine.
Denny's suggestion that Lee Nielsen, Tulip Lane, Denny's suggestion that we start with humble beginnings relates to my question. And that is, we just did, thank you very much, a survey of what people wanted in the recreation department. Is that not right? And I'm curious as to what the responses were. So whether it was pickleball or basketball or dancing or whatever. doesn't need to be answered now, but I'm curious, did we get good response, and do we have people in our village saying pickleball, for example, or basketball, or racing, or whatever? What are people saying they want? So I think that would be helpful to know.
I can answer. Last week, when I asked Mary, they only had 10 responses. Yeah, which doesn't, survey.
One of them's mine.
Yeah, so, but that was
Maybe
last week.
everybody in this room.
We might have more, Lisa. I'll get the answer to that. So, to be honest with you, we want to give it some time, like anything, it just went out. I know we are putting in the next journal too. I think you mentioned that about
Yeah,
putting in
I wanna
there.
get
So,
on it.
we're starting to put the journal, and we've already started putting the journal together. So I think we are going to run it again too.
I guess I would suggest, certainly in the world that I live in, I would want to know what people want before we spend money on it.
Well, I know, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Nielsen was approached by people wanting it, and I do know that we currently don't have a basketball court. That needs to be taken out. I know that's on Rob's agenda, but that needs a definitive date where that needs to come out, because in another couple months, kids are going to be running up and down there, and we want to give it time for grass to grow, or whatever is going to be, planted there, probably grass to take hold before the people get there, really. So that needs to be, I know they're stressed for,
Right.
but that needs to happen. So we don't have a basketball court, and I know when we did, and I know when we did the other basketball court up at the church, it was very successful, that there were a lot of people using it. And it's always, a lot of people always used our basketball court when it was playable. The unfortunate thing is it fell into disrepair and people couldn't use it anymore. So,
But you understand my point.
oh, very well.
That if there's a lot of people that want basketball, it makes sense to have basketball. I think you said last week there were a couple of people that asked you about pickleball.
There were several people that.
How many is several, just for
Probably
grants?
6, 8,
Okay.
just in passing. I had never heard of it before. And so when it came up, I was, the first time somebody said to me, why don't you have pickleball courts? Because it's good, it was a senior.
Right.
And they said, it's a game for seniors. And as I looked into it, started finding out that younger people like to play it too. Well,
Right.
then I started talking to some of the new residents in the village, and they also, they said they came from somewhere where they played pickleball. I said, I had never heard of the game. I didn't know what kind of court, I didn't know anything about it.
Right.
So that's how
Is
it got
that,
started.
was it on our survey? I don't remember seeing it.
I don't know.
So maybe we need to, if the survey's getting ready to go out again, maybe it makes sense to add some things so that we get a really good, accurate sense of what people want. I want a bandstand, okay? But I'm only one
I
person.
started asking,
Right.
I'm sorry.
If you Google it, fastest growing sport in America.
I got that,
So
and
we're
I
in-
lived
we're
through
in the
also,
Midwest, it's.
I lived through golf being the fastest growing sport, and I have
So,
two
right.
sets of clubs in my basement that rarely get used now because, and there were people who were building golf courses like crazy, and now they're putting houses on them. So I get that, but the question is, what do people want, right? What do our people want? And so, to me, it makes sense not to, if we know for sure people want basketball, it would make sense to do something to help the kids have a basketball court. But if we don't know, if we don't have a sense, then and we've asked the question, it seems to me that we should have some answers before we spend money. That's all.
Mr. Mayor.
That's it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's my last comment for tonight.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Lee.
So if we have a pickleball court and a basketball court available for the kids, and the kids are up at the park and they get a chance to play, it's not a bad thing. And it's certainly, I think, for the residents, it's a positive for the residents. I know in Independence, they not only have outdoor courts, they have indoor courts. I started asking questions. They're waiting for the use of the courts. There's that much interest in the game. Young kids play it, middle age, aged and older people can play it. In Florida, you can't get court time. So it's a fast-growing sport. Again, I had never heard of it, and started looking into it and found out that because it's a small court, and because you don't cover a lot of ground when you're playing it. You can play 2 people, 4 people. It's good exercise. So can't hurt anything to have it. I mean, that's for the small amount that these nets. I think it's a good opportunity. We're bringing something new into the village. So for the residents, I mean, for all the residents. There's probably a lot of people that have never played. There's probably a lot of people that have never played it that will like it. So,
General data conversation is different than getting some kind of real data.
yeah.
And so we've asked for a survey, and
Right.
the survey should be able to tell us what you're doing.
Unfortunately, you're
Mr.
getting
Mayor.
responses.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
You're not getting a response.
The response rate too, obviously, I wholeheartedly agree with you about getting data and things, but we're here to make decisions too, and we can't just sit and wait and wait and wait and wait. We put the information out, we got 8 or 10 responses. So, how long do we wait for good data? We go by the information that we have and make the decisions based on that information that we have. That's all we can do. I can tell you 10 surveys mean absolutely nothing. 10 in terms of statistical analysis. I've had plenty of statistical analysis courses in my master's degree in college. It means that 10 surveys mean absolutely nothing. So we're here to make decisions, and that's what we have to do. Whether we don't do it at all, or do something, or go in a different direction, but that's what we're here for. And we've been asked to increase the recreational opportunities for our residents over and over and over again. We've been asked, and we've been told to be fiscally responsible. We've been asked to segregate out certain recreational facilities in terms of how many people are, the hours that they're putting in, the equipment that's going there, the utilities and stuff. But then when it comes time to sharing another piece of property and using it in a fiscally responsible manner, all of a sudden it's okay to spend tens of thousands of dollars more to put it elsewhere. So that doesn't sit too right with me either. I understand that there's a feeling that you're going to lose something. I'll say it again, you're welcome to use your cars up there. I don't care if you use them or not. It's fine by me. It's not the goal to block anybody out. It's the goal to get more recreational facilities up there at the least amount of money that we can possibly do it, so we can do something for the residents. They want it. So that's where I'm at with it.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilman.
I would ask if we are going to put the survey in again, if we could specifically include pickleball, because it is not on
Yeah,
there.
it was supposed to be on there
Right.
because it was on.
We did
It was
discuss
on the
it.
paper one.
It was
Yeah,
on the
other one.
original. But I'd also, Brian, I don't know if you know, is there any status about, because I asked about a survey link on our website?
Not yet.
Okay.
And I'm going to get with Mary. We're going to do probably.
Well, Lisa does the,
And that would be
Lisa
the
does
county.
thing, But as far as
Yeah.
making the
The survey, okay.
We can put one on there easily in a PDF file for people to print off and do. But if you want to do one like the lake did it,
Yeah.
which I would suggest,
I would too.
then they can.
right.
Right, and
do that.
just one other thing I'd like to keep in mind, I know about a dozen residents that wanted an exercise room up at the event center. So unfortunately, we can't accommodate everything and everyone. But right now, we're still working on ifs. We don't know if we're gonna have the money for this. We don't know if the grant will come through, so.
I have a couple live stream.
A couple patient live streamers.
They've
Steve,
been waiting, so. I'm
Steve
gonna go
Velk had
there.
asked how many surveys had been received back, so we did from residents so far,
And
so we
that was
did answer
last
that.
week, so
Yeah, I put that out. And then Michelle Velk had said, doesn't the community center need a roof? Shouldn't $8,000 go toward that before we worry about pickleball? That's it, those are the comments.
I'll make a comment to that.
We'd have to ask Rob.
After that meeting, Mr. Kalman came to me and said, "Where did that come from?" I said, "You tell me." So I'll leave it at that. I know we could, about a roof. They made some repairs.
You're talking about this roof?
That's,
It would be this roof,
Yeah.
yeah.
so
That's-
it's not,
that's what they
according to Mr. Kalman, it's not that we don't need a roof. We can always use roof, but it's not, we have to put the roof in. We have some more infrastructure, more mechanical things that would probably come before that, to do with the boiler and things like that. So,
Well, and
You know,
Mr. Mayor,
but that's-
the roof here
that's-
was estimated to be around
yeah, but we're,
400,000.
So-
Yeah,
Different
so.
rules.
I guess that question would go to our service director, because after the meeting, he asked where that came from, and I said, well, it didn't come from the mayor. So we can ask him that. I'll leave that
I
question
can say too,
for
Mr.
them,
Mayor, I know
so.
that our rec director has stated that there were some repairs that were needed on the community center roof
Right,
from some damage.
yeah.
So I don't know if
repairs.
that's where
Could be,
the
maybe.
disconnect is possibly coming
Yeah.
through, if there
I have no
is.
idea.
But that's what council's job is, legislate and appropriate. You get to recreation, we talked about, I remember being on council with some of the members where we had a large push from the residents to erect a large community center. It was almost $2 million. And the majority of the residents wanted. We did surveys, we did everything. And council did just the opposite of what maybe the residents wanted at that time, because not only we have to base things on our fiscal responsibility to the village too. And so that's the thing, and it panned out. It was probably the right thing. We're very fortunate we didn't, otherwise we'd be looking for funds just to keep a large recreation center going, especially we were looking at a pool. Remember, we had it was in this upper parking lot here, and changing this whole building and stuff.
I have one more comment.
Gus, go ahead, one more comment.
One more resident comment from Sean McCormick. In the event that equipment is purchased for pickleball, who is responsible for placing equipment on the court or for storing it after its use? Food for thought.
Yeah, I mean, well, how I look at it, if it's mobile and you're sharing that, you got it on wheels, you move the nets. The basketball court, even though it's mobile, the basketball hoop is mobile, you don't want.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that'd be.
that would be
area
more of a
that's not
fixed
even- it's not
location.
even-
And that's high, so that, and you got a
Yeah,
small
that's not gonna
base.
be in the way of
you know.
anything.
It also takes 500 pounds of sand.
You can lift.
I know, I can.
You're used to lifting gurneys.
That's right.
We had a resident who, or whoever, did you have, anybody else have anything to say?
I do after.
Yeah,
after
oh, you
the-
do? Go ahead.
No, you come on.
All right, I'll try my best to be respectful and civil, but I'm very frustrated
Can you
that
state your name and where you
Yeah.
We
live?
didn't hear you.
I'm a non-resident, Ken Beam. I live in Bedford Heights. I'm one of the ones who contributed my own money, work and time to the racetrack and make it what it is. And it seems to me that now the city wants to commandeer the one place that has been rejuvenated and maintained and taken care of, because no money's going to the tennis court upstairs. I play tennis. I wouldn't use that court. Nobody's going to walk up there and use that court. It's terrible. The basketball court, same situation. You talk about bringing pickleball in. I think that's fantastic. Multi-use park. But LeBron James came from a little field out in Canton playing basketball, far more ubiquitous sport than pickleball. Nothing against pickleball, bring it in. But there's got to be a way to salvage a tennis court that's an eyesore. The racetrack, we renovated it. Our money, our endeavor, our sponsorship to renovate that. Residents didn't pay for that. And now you want to take that away. You talk about bringing multi-use to the park. Well, you want to take out the basketball court. That's a very popular sport. There's always kids up there, a couple, always playing. The tennis court is not as popular, but neither is pickleball. Even if it is the fastest growing sport, it may be a fad. Skateboarding is popular too. I just hope that you guys can find a way to satisfy all the residents, most residents anyway, because you never satisfy everybody. I think that survey is absolutely critical. You have to know. And what if we were to get a bunch of people to sign a petition or sign a survey that they want the racetrack? Does that mean we win? It's not taking into account the people who want the pickleball. So I don't know. You say there aren't funds to repair the basketball court, and you're going to take it out? It just doesn't seem to be a very forward-thinking program. Again, we renovated that track down there. We did a lot of work, and you gave us permission to. We tried to take care of it. And because it is the crown jewel in the park, as far as courts go, we're losing it to, sharing it to, and who's going to take care of it? If the racers can't come down and race because they have to compete for time, and they go up there Sunday afternoon from family to come down there and race, and they face, got to get a key, okay, understood. They face someone on the pickleball court and they can't get on the court to race, they're going to lose interest. They're not going to come down there and maintain it. Now it's going to be on you to maintain it. Are the pickleball people going to maintain it? Something to think about. I do respect the residents, and I'm not a resident, it's just my opinion. I respect all of you trying to juggle all these factors. I do respect that. I hope you can find a way to accommodate the most people. It starts with that survey. I mean, you say you want to please the residents, you say your job is to make a decision, but that decision needs to consider all the factors, I think. And it seems to me there's a big push for this pickleball court all of a sudden. So I respectfully wish you the best.
Mr. Mayor?
Wait here, I want to make a comment. You said exactly what's wrong. If I would have known, because I voted for the $5,000, okay? So don't think the village didn't do anything in that track. We paved it.
No, you did. I wrote you a
Okay?
letter to all of you.
Wait, I let you talk without saying anything.
Gotcha.
Understanding that we wanted to get use out of that park, and we had a group led by a few residents, okay? Because what I see, it's very few, okay? But that has nothing to do with it. I'm just making the point. So it's supported. Just like I would support anything, I'd give a $50 donation if it's a good cause. The problem I have now is, you think you own it.
No.
No, wait, you keep throwing that up, because I got your email, that you own it, and the village can't have that, okay? Yes, if you've used it for night, that's a great thing. We want you to continue using it. No one's saying, we want to share it. That's the proposal,
Agreed.
okay? You just want it for the race car.
No, I disagree.
You haven't even, wait, no, just wait. No one has said the race cars are going away. It happens to be the best paved, what we have now. Why we haven't done it? Because we were fiscally responsible, and why our courts haven't been fixed. We'd love to have all that fixed up there, because we wanted to bring our budget in line, okay? We wanted to be in the black, like a lot of communities, losing some of your big revenue businesses for our house. We had to do that. And guess who asked us to do that? The residents. The residents, okay? But the problem is, yeah, you put your thing in. If I would have known that that group was going to put money in and hang that over our head, okay? I was hoping what would happen is, wow, you put that money in it, we used it, we had a beautiful thing, we still do have a beautiful thing. Isn't that nice? And I think it was your email, said $9,000 over 9 years. Okay?
No, that was initial, $9,000 to get it repaid. and
But we used it for how many years so far? 9. Okay, that's $1,000 a year. Mr. Harkey said there's 20 residents. Not 20 residents, 20 people that use it. That's $50 a year. Not a bad recreation. Every Sunday for $50 a year? Not bad. So my point is, I'm all for the recreation. I don't know why it's so stickly that we can't share. We're not even moving forward with it yet, but if it does move forward, wouldn't it, why?
Well,
Not
just
even
to
giving it a
respond,
chance. It's, I don't know.
to respond to that,
Does anybody else have any, yeah, I'll let you go ahead.
just to respond to that briefly, you have a tennis court, you're not catering to the people who play tennis. You have a basketball court, you want to take that out, because you can't find the money to take care of those items.
Right.
There are people who want to play basketball, or play tennis, or play tennis and pickleball.
So the proposal is a basketball court to accommodate them, a pickleball court, which is similar to tennis, to accommodate, this is what I'm hearing, I'm just the mayor, okay, I'm hearing it from the rec committee, so, and leave the racetrack. So we're accommodating the racetrack, but now we're adding basketball
And where-
and pickleball.
where-
Now wait, would you let me finish, sir? So we're accommodating a larger group. Well, I'll tell you what, if I have to vote on that, I'm gonna vote for the larger group. Sure, you get the thing, but what we wanna do is draw more people. No one's trying to exclude a group to draw another group. If that was the case, we wouldn't be doing our job.
Well, how does someone come up there and play basketball or pickleball if we're on the racetrack? How does someone come up there and play basketball if they're playing pickleball? You're
I can
using,
answer
I think
that.
you're talking about
I can
using one
answer that.
surface, right?
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
can answer that. If I go up with the nephews to use the swing set, and there's people using the swing set, I have a choice. I can either wait for the swing set, or I can leave and go somewhere else. If I go up there with a group of people to sit at the park benches, at the picnic tables, and there's somebody already using them, I either have to wait or I gotta go somewhere else. You're no different. What
No,
makes you think you're different?
I'm not
That you
claiming,
can have that spot all
I'm
by
not
yourself?
proposing to you, you're gonna have a bottleneck of issues, that people want to
We're
play
not gonna have a
basketball
bottleneck of
and
issues other
pickleball.
than what we
You're trying
already
to use
have.
one surface.
Well, here, I don't
It's
want
not
to
gonna
get
work.
civil.
I gotta think. You race on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Yeah.
Would you have a problem if you went down there and seen a couple kids playing basketball on Monday and Tuesday?
Semi-track.
Or
is-
Wednesday?
You know, we do put
No,
some,
no, I'm serious. I mean,
no,
I'd be happy. You know what makes me sick? Going up there and seeing those baseball fields with no one
nothing
playing.
happening. Yeah.
Okay? So, we're on the same page.
Yeah, on that
Okay?
guy.
So,
But how
Brian,
do
you
you
guys
put
are
all
racing
that-
on Sunday, the kid comes up there, his dad will say, well, it looks like there's people up there Sunday, maybe we better start coming up Saturday. I mean, can't we try that?
Sounds like it's not going to be anything but chaos. People have expectations, they go up there to use the swing set, there's only one swing, you're not providing recreation. You got a tennis court, you got a basketball court, but they're not
We can't,
maintained.
we can't afford
I know.
to redo them. That's what it's about. You think as mayor, I want to go through this debate. We're trying to redevelop the Ford plant, get more businesses in. If we had the money, we'd make it look beautiful. Why wouldn't we?
I do believe it's going to cause chaos when people try to use one area. for-
Who's it going to cause chaos?
Mr. Mayor, can I make a point of order, please? We're not supposed to be debating each other.
Well,
If-
I'm not
if
going to debate.
Mr. Dean would
but-
like to finish his comments. Councilman
That's
Nielsen
my
has been
comment.
waiting.
I
Well, the other thing
appreciate,
is, the mayor is the one who makes the point of order. It's my meeting, but I appreciate that because I know you're trying to move it along. Okay, but my point is, everybody wants to make it you against him or her against him. It ain't about that. It
we
ain't
don't
about
own
that.
it,
That's
we
all,
understand
that's all
that.
I'm gonna say, because
we
that's
put-
how
we
I
put
live.
signs up to invite people up every Sunday, we put signs up so people can come.
That's
to the
great.
park.
That's great. How's it going?
It's bringing people in. not a lot,
Good.
but it's bringing people.
Good, nobody,
And there are all signs in the area, but I
you know how
respect
many,
your time.
have you listened to me? Do you know how much negative things this group, including myself, has said about the car racing? None. None. None.
Well, mark my words, I believe it'll fall off, and then you'll have a pickleball court and a basketball court, but nobody will maintain it except you guys. I
Well,
just don't think
I'm
you
sad
guys
to hear
will
that.
lose interest.
I would ask you this.
Yeah.
If it does happen, okay, and you're a part of it, make it positive. That's what I ask.
Fine.
Go into it positive. If you go into it negative, chances are you're gonna come out negative. You go into it positive, you got a good chance it's gonna come out positive.
Oh, okay.
That's how I approach things.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
As far as putting money into things, I've been here this is my 16th year. I've not heard, I've never been involved in conversations other than the initial paving of the thing when we allocated the $5,000. And then that top coating thing where we gave money, most of us gave some money to do that because the village didn't have money. But that isn't a one-off thing. Look at the Walton Hills Lake. My father-in-law spent all kinds of time down there putting in that pool when that pool was new. All kinds of time. Mike Hopkins.
My father shoveled that
Fred Nielsen.
hole.
That whole park. How many hours would you say you spent in labor in that park? Okay?
There's no way to count.
Nobody else is saying, you don't hear anybody else in this village saying, what about where Mayor Hurst put up the concession stand? That was put up, the concrete was donated. The labor was donated. You don't hear anybody up here saying, you can't do with it, it's no longer a municipal facility, basically.
Mr.
I mean,
Mayor,
that's just.
I did the fields with Mr. Nielsen to get the drain. Not only that, I put the playground equipment in. But guess what? I did it because I wanted to, and I did it for everybody that uses it.
Mr. Mayor,
It's probably the first time I said it, except the last meeting, and since it's put in, doesn't matter. I don't want no accolades for it. Go ahead, Fred.
you don't know me, I don't know you. I've lived here over 60 years, and I'll tell you what, all the work you put in that up there, and all your friends and everything won't even come close to what I put in up there at that park. But I never asked for my money back. I never said, well, you can't play on that field because I'm the one that fixed it. I never said that to anybody. I didn't see anybody up there helping me when I took my own equipment and borrowed the aerator from Valley View and hauled it up and unloaded it myself and did the whole park. I didn't do just the ball diamonds. I did the whole park for everybody, not just for a select few, okay? It was for everybody. And I'll tell you what, when this all started, it started because, well, I wasn't on council, but they had to take the basketball court out because it was so bad. And we started looking, where could the kids play basketball? Because they look, especially the Parkers, they like to play basketball. My kids they grew up going to that park, and they love to play basketball. That's how this started. It's not about pickleball, okay? So Brian and myself, we went up there, we measured it out, we could see that we could put a pickleball court, or 2 pickleball courts, and a half basketball court up there, and you could still have your racetrack. And we're not trying to eliminate the racetrack, we're trying to make use of the area that we have for everybody, okay? And it's not about people coming in from outside in Bedford Heights or wherever, it's about our kids and our residents, first of all. We pay the taxes here. I've paid my taxes here. So I don't want to get into the big thing about how much you put into it and what you've done to fix it up. That's wonderful. When you did it, it was for the betterment of everybody. That's how you have to look at it. If you're looking for your money back, I don't know what to tell you.
I don't believe I ever asked for that, and I don't believe I asked for any accolades. I'm just merely pointing out but we are the ones maintaining it, painting it, taking care of it, sealing the cracks. All the cracks we seal.
I contracted Mr. Harkeye in 2017.
Okay, no
We
debating.
need to move on.
Okay, I know Jeff's been waiting, but I will answer it since I have a right to. But you use it. So you do all that because you're using it.
Sure.
Okay,
And
just making the point. I put my gas in my car because I drive it.
Mr.
I don't
Mayor,
put it in someone else's car.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
While Mr. Alexander's coming up to the podium, my grandfather built the entire grill system down at the lake and never was given a membership even for 1 year for it. It was all completely voluntary.
Mr. Mayor, my father helped dig that, what he called the mud hole, and he never got a free membership, and he always was, he went, no free membership. Yeah,
Jeff
we're down
Alexander,
there
Walton
together.
Road. Well, as a trustee of the lake, they claim that no one gets a free
That's right.
membership from there, whether it's a co-op, it's volunteers.
That's
So
exactly right.
I asked for a reduction as a trustee, instead of paying $3 for my graduation parties to $2. I said, no, that's the way it is, okay? So talking about the racetrack and not to debate anybody, I think I heard Mr. Harkey say that you use the village electricity to charge your cars? Is that right? Okay, and some non-residents also used it? Well, I think these people should pay a fee for using that. Electricity, the space, I think there's a liability of having non-residents come there and race. And I think Bedford Heights is a much bigger city. Maybe you should go to your own town, make a racetrack there. Maybe it'll be the solution to everything.
If you calculate how much energy you got, one energy.
No debating, guys, no debate. I don't want you to debate.
Go to your town.
Mayor Colgrove.
Yes, go ahead, Ray.
Yeah, I just had.
Thank you, Jeff.
I just had a couple points I just wanted to talk about. I know last week we discussed this initially, and I asked at that time whether or not there would be flexibility in the grant application in case something needs to be moved somewhere else. And, you know, tonight we spent a lot of discussion about racetrack versus this or that. And, you know, so I still have that same question because, you know, I looked at the diagram that Councilman Spitznagel put together, you know, and I see other options, just even on the diagram that's there, that may accommodate everyone, and, you know, with respect to the different days that they may, you know, want to operate down there. You know, so, well, what I don't see on the diagram is what does a pickleball racetrack course look, what does that look like? However, I can imagine what a pickleball course that sits on an area where a batting cage currently is underused. The batting cage, it's only, you know, a backstop and a movable pitching machine. So, and perhaps we need to take a look at what are all of the options for this multi-use. It may be the racetrack as a racetrack should stay. The pickleball courts go in and share a space with the batting cages because those are going to generally might be different times, and then the basketball stays where it is. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think,
So-
well, first of all,
so
the,
this-
yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's other options is what I'm saying. Now, when I hear, let me just move this down here.
It's not wide enough.
It's not wide
I don't-
enough.
I don't
This is
believe so.
46, that says 40.
This is 64.
Anyway, now is not the time to get all into the
Yeah.
details, but I think it's worthy for us to take a look at all of the potential options.
Sure.
You know, again, and not understand, I have no, I don't know anything much about pickleball, but it is hard for me to imagine how a pickleball, how a court, a rectangle court, and a, what is it, oblong, not oblong, an oval, how those coincide together. That generally just doesn't work very well together. Now, my final point, I do want to say, Mayor, and to, I was not here. I was not on council when the $5,000, initial $5,000 was budgeted or allotted, came out of the budget. I was not on council when the $9,250 that went into the second piece, the paving piece, which, from Mr. Harkai's list, sounded like there was, I mean, for lack of a better term, this is a perfect example of a public-private citizen partnership where you had residents, administration or council, you had outside individuals, businesses. That's the ideal. That's how a lot gets done in a lot of our communities today, is this. And that's what this is. This is a good example of a public-private partnership and with citizens' involvement, which does lead, and I hear what these guys are saying, it does lead to the fact that the best area of there is this oval for the track. Now, no, I do not agree that citizens own it. I mean, residents own that. No, the village still owns that property. They still own it. There's no question who owns it. It's village property. But my appeal is, can we take another look at, is this the only way to do it, or are there other ways to do it? That's my concern. Are there other ways to accommodate everyone in that shared space, in that multi-use space?
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Whedon. I see where you're coming from. The surface of the batting cage is going to cost over $10,500 to resurface. It is not playable as a court right now. So that's an additional cost. I can't fathom for the life of me. I went up there, and I could be wrong. I did take a picture. I think there's one stripe going around. I can't fathom for the life of me why that would bother anybody, racing a car with other striping on there. I can't fathom for the life of me why there can't be any other visual thing going on. I just can't. We're talking about some paint lines. And the basketball court has to go there. We're there.
Yeah, so even if the basketball court here, and then, again, this is not a rec committee meeting, and I don't.
No, and you're going to have plenty of them.
No,
All
right,
was to think, but I allowed
So
everybody
couldn't this also
to
go
discuss
here?
it. So
This is a
About a
portable.
grant.
they can't listen to the discussion
Yeah.
before forming an opinion
Right.
in a negative way.
Right.
No, and I'm not being, what I'm saying, Mayor, is I think we,
It's
can
been
we
nothing tonight to
take
make
a
an
look, can we
allocation.
take a look at,
Applying for a grant
have we looked at all, and I asked last week, was the grant application, is
that
it
you don't even have to
flexible?
accept.
Is it flexible in terms of its use? And have we
It's all
exhausted
financing.
all of our options
Don't miss the deadline.
in
though.
terms of,
Right.
what, how we could accommodate
We
in
can
this multi?
certainly look at doing things, but if you're talking about not putting anything anywhere on where that racetrack is now, it can't physically go there. The asphalt is not good on the east side for play. It's got to go. And if you, like I said, if you have one line, is there one white line up there?
No, there's
How-
more than one.
How many? It's just a number.
I know. We don't know, that's what I'm saying,
We're not making, but Ray, you're not making any decision. Are you guys for
No.
moving for the grant?
Yes.
Yes, that's
Go ahead, let them answer the
Okay.
question, we're moving on.
Yes, we're for the grant.
Okay,
Sure.
all right. There's a start-finish line that's checkers. There's an oval that marks an oval racetrack. And for variety, we also run a road course on the same track. So there's other markings that mark off where the road course is. So it's specifically marked to be a combination of an oval track and a road track. Now, one thing that I talked about, there's something else I forgot to mention that I think is extremely important. When we have sports taking place in that upper court, if that ends up being the place where pickleball goes, for the most part, we're going to have, not kids, we're going to have senior citizens, older folks, and odds are, hopefully it never happens, but it could happen where there's a medical emergency up there. Someone could hurt a knee or a leg or an ankle, or could have a stroke or a heart attack. Who knows what could happen up there in terms of an active sport like that, especially with senior citizens. So with the interest of, and the respect for the dangers that someone could face working up there, I think it would be a disadvantage to have people playing pickleball down below, for example, and basketball down below. And if there was a medical emergency, it would take the emergency vehicles that much longer to get down there. And if it's muddy or something like that, I think you're running a risk. But that's beside the point, okay? Before, I said that what we did was begin with humble beginnings with the racetrack. Right now, the area for the batting cage never got used last year, and the area in between the batting cage and the racetrack, that never got used for anything. So, what Mr. Whedon is suggesting is not a bad idea that we could look into. I said we originally went down there, we rented grinding machines to level off the cracks, okay? We did that ourselves. I don't think it cost very much money to do that. That area could be seal coated and crack filled, probably at a very good price from some contractor that's willing to cooperate with the village. And then we could make the permanent markings for the pickleball court. Put the basketball net in that area because it's not being used for anything else. And then let's see how many people play pickleball. Let's see how many people want to go down there and play basketball. And personally, I was willing to put my time and effort into helping raise funds to make the racetrack work. Here's me, I'm volunteering to help get involved and be on the team and help bring in money. Talking to contractors, talking to donors. There's people in this village that wear rings on their finger that cost more than what it would cost to fix up that area over there or any other area for that matter. Before anything rash happens, before they start putting markings all over that court and actually ruining look at a racetrack, we're not saying we own the racetrack. We're thankful to have it, and we're glad to help and cooperate working with you guys to keep it in nice condition. Before we do anything radical, if I could at least get your commitment, that we could be open to suggestions and ideas and ways to accomplish what we're all trying to accomplish without it costing the village a lot of money, where everybody's going to benefit from it. That's where I'm coming from. I think that we could renovate an area at a minimum of cost, and besides that, you know what else you could do with that tennis court up on top if you clean that up? You could throw a couple of beanbag games in there and put a set of beanbags in a plastic container. Now, you turn it into two things that people could use that they're not doing at all. They could play pickleball and they could play beanbags or something like that. I think, and I'm willing to get involved in meetings with committees to discuss these things rather than taking time in a public meeting like this. We're just trying to help. We're not trying to cause a problem. We want to cooperate with the village. Leaving the key with the police is fine with me. I respect your concern for security and safety and everything else. I don't see any problem with that. All I think we're really doing is pleading with you not to start painting markings all over the racetrack. That's kind of where we're really coming from on this whole thing. And what we want to do, and I could get our group involved in helping. I know people, you know people. Believe me, we could pull something off that would work if we work together at it. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Huh? Okay. Thanks. And I'm ready for dinner.
I'll just say one thing to that. The focus is that whether it's down there or whether it's up high, that more people use the park. So if there's people down in that area, Monday through Saturday, and you guys are racing on Sunday, you want to agree on something, agree on that. I mean, that's what it's about. I'm not saying giving you Sunday. What I'm saying is more people that use the park, that's what the goal is here, and that's what Mr. Spitzenagel and the rec committee is trying to do. So I'm just going to leave it at that. So from the beginning, the intention was always good. From the day Mr. Spitzenagel brought it up, he said, no one said not to do the racetrack, have the racetrack too. But it's just simple. That's just...
It's simply a matter of how you go about doing it to the benefit of everybody without hurting anybody. That's what it is.
What it is here and here, coming to the middle. And coming to the middle sometimes doesn't always make you perfectly happy. But, all right, let's move on here a little bit. Anybody else have anything for other business? Otherwise, I'll ask for adjournment.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for adjournment.
Second.
Okay, vote on the motion.
Councilman Nielsen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Brenner Miller?
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen?
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel? Councilman Whedon?
Yes. Meeting adjourned at 9:26 PM. Everybody ready? You want to go to the restroom? All right, we'll give a restroom break and
I
then
have
we'll
to
go
go
right,
into the next live stream anyway.
we'll go right into the regular council
I
meeting.
gotta
when
redo everything.
everybody comes back.
Would everybody like a copy of the updated legislation? Because Mr. Montello did go in and update per
Yes.
Brian's changes, so I can
Yes,
print
please.
that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Let me do that. Let me get out of here.
That's